our culture, our Christian culture in America is so kept from the realities that are going on throughout
we're a
the
little
world.
padded from a lot
We're
of
very padded from
Yeah.
from these realities taking place in the world. I mean, if you look back in Jesus' day, even, right? I mean, like, he was crucified, but this was happening all the time back then. They were getting crucified. Crucifixions were a common thing. It wasn't like something. And so we see things on our phones. We see things from this distance here in America. But really, what's going on in these other nations is people are living these nightmares, and they realize how real. You know, when it says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, us as Americans, we almost just take that metaphorically. We don't take that literally all the time, you know, until we get ourselves in these situations, these trials that, you know, all the disciples went through. They were all martyred except for one, obviously, but even that one they tried to martyr.
Yeah, they definitely tried.
And just this reality of the spiritual war, the physical war that we're in, is something that is lost on our culture, and it's lost in America. It is padded, you know. And so even with the film, it's like, if people realize, because, like, you know, I think I talked about this before, Sound of Freedom, people can think it's far away, it's in that third world country. When it comes to this issue, it actually is taking place right here.
Oh, 100%.
It's very, very, very hidden. It's very, you know, obviously suppressed, because we don't want to talk about these actual things that are taking place right here. We'd rather talk about some war that's going on in a different country, or, you know, these issues that aren't as pressing. But, you know, what I really feel like God's heart is bringing me to focus on, especially in the process of doing this, and it just continually happens. Anytime I get sort of, you know, numb or kind of not as sensitive to the spirit of the war that we're in, if you're not aware of that, if you're not constantly, you know, pressing in, I'm not saying you need to be living in, you know, like anxiety or fear towards it, but when you know, realize what your battle is, what your war is, you will be infused with His Spirit and purpose through that. And so, like, for instance, you know, it says that, you know, our war is not against flesh and blood; it's against these spiritual principalities and forces, and so when you understand that reality, like for me, you know, I had an encounter last night, actually, even in my sleep, you know, and it was, you know, I you know, throughout this process of this subject, and just you know, a lot of, you know, the dream was happened at night when I had that dream, and although it was definitely from the Lord, it had the, you know, this very serious tone to it, and the enemy obviously also likes to come in the night and do his work at night, especially during this time we're right now during Halloween. I mean, that's just you know, the demonic activities at a peak right now when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, you know, like, for instance, last night, you know, I was getting that sense, you know, of like, you know, you really want to be armored, you really want to be prepared, you really want to not be numb or complacent to the war that we're in, and you want to be not only aware of it, but taking authority over these things, and over, you know, over these demonic entities that really do want to kill, steal, and destroy, and it's not just metaphorical, you know. And so, you know, I wake up from these encounters, though, always infused and more stirred up in my faith, you know. And anytime the enemy does rear up his head, it causes me personally just to press in even deeper, to press in, to be more aware, to be more on guard, to be more on fire. And that's really, if you get what comes, you know, like when Jesus went into the wilderness, He wasn't looking for that attack, you know, from the enemy, you know. That's not like why He was sent into the wilderness. If you you know, think about why He went out there, it's like He's going out there to be refined, right? To be prepared for the mission. And it just so happens that God allowed the enemy to come in.
Enemy, Satan.
You know, yeah, you know, and so it's like we're not going to be shielded from the attacks as a believer. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, Jesus himself.
Yeah, if Jesus, you
know,
did,
and so, but that was, you know, He comes out in you know, spirit and power, you know, infused, filled with power, And so that is the preparation so many times, is right before you're going to do something amazing, you're going to be tested, you're going to be going through these things. And they prepare you for the authority and the anointing and the calling God's going to have you walk in. So that's kind of the season that's kind of been, you know, in these last months. And so the test really is if things aren't, you know, really testing you in the way that it might be a force of the enemy, like rearing up his head like it was for Jesus. A lot of times in our culture, it's not as much always like that, especially for believers. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's the mundane, it's the complacent, it's the being lulled to sleep. That's really where the enemy does his best work, I feel. Is when he can just put you to sleep, and you're not looking for anything in particular demonic, nothing's going wrong. But you're out of action. You're out of, you know, being on fire for God.